big way.
Yeah, when I throw a stogie back, I feel it for like 2 days, I feel it.
All right, we should have gone live now.
All right.
Cameras aren't on. They're looking
if you
at
want to, you can go to our Tampa Bay Real Producers Facebook page and you can share the going live for now on your own socials.
Yeah.
That way people can see and be notified that you're going live right now. So, just so you understand what we're doing, we're going live on our Facebook page and on our YouTube channel. And we also have like the top 500 agents Facebook group that it'll be live on. And then obviously everything's gonna be like the official episode will be edited, and we release a new episode every Friday.
I know, I get the notifications. I watch
Yeah.
them all the time. I just watch
Awesome.
everything in the app, because I watch it while I do makeup in the morning. But that's how I watch it. Like, people are like, hey, what books are you reading? No, I'm a podcast girl, because I put them on while I'm getting ready in the morning.
Yeah.
So.
A lot of people do it a lot of different ways, right? I'm glad that you're following us. I appreciate it. So you'll, it's probably like a month and a half out right now. We're already at with like episodes. So you'll get some reels that'll come out that week just to notify of your episode dropping. And then that Friday, the official episode will come out.
I love that for me.
I like your shoes too.
Kill
it today.
Thanks.
Slaying it, Beth.
You know
Slaying
what?
it.
I haven't been in heels since me and Aaron Rodgers tore our Achilles the same day.
Is that right?
Yes, and so.
Did you hear about his VP campaign here?
I just saw, what
You
I
never
saw
know
was
with that
kind of
dude,
wild,
man.
and I was like, listen, I just need you to be a Jet.
You never know with that dude what's going to happen next.
Let's get the Jets back in order.
You never know with that dude.
So I can start my campaign to bring back the Flight Girls, and your wife can make a reappearance.
It's a damn shame. Part of it's kind of neat though that they retired them, and then my wife was like grandfathered in now to a special group.
So cool.
Yeah.
No, that's actually pretty badass.
She only was there 2 years, but the 2 years she was there were the two best years they had when they went to the AFC title game. That was Rex Ryan's,
I'm just a big fan.
Mark Sanchez squad.
That was the best year.
Yeah.
I was at that game in Pittsburgh. It was 5 degrees below zero.
Yeah, they weren't there because it was an away game. But if they had won, they would have went to the Super Bowl. And I definitely would have been a fan of that.
Yeah. So me and my little brother, we would have like a budget of like if the Jets ever go to the Super Bowl, like what? And I mean, we started talking about this when we were like young kids, and I was like, we got to just save so we have like 10,000. It's so funny that now it would be like it's like 20, 30 grand to just have a whole experience. Are you ready?
We ready to go?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, Don, I'm going to kick you off. I'll give you a countdown, and then you'll welcome us in.
Let's do it.
All right.
Pumped.
Here we go.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Tampa Bay Real Producers Podcast. This, of course, is the podcast that is made for real producers, by real producers, and with none other than Tampa Bay's real producers. We get to hang out today with our next guest, Ms. Beth Silverman. How you doing, Beth?
I'm doing outstanding.
It's good to have you here today, rocking some great shoes I see, and just ready to slay today. I'm excited to have you on the show. Those of you who might recognize or follow us on our platform probably know Beth's face, at least from seeing her on our cover of our February 2024 issue. We just had her recently spotlighted. I guess it was last month. So you probably read her article, but today we get to dive in a little bit more detail to her story and everything that she's been crushing it with eXp Realty. So Beth, let's start for people who might not know you, who maybe didn't even get a chance to read your article, on just a little bit of your backstory. So I know you're not a Tampa girl locally native. You know, you grew up in the north like I did.
Yeah.
So New York gal, true and true. And what eventually brought you to Tampa, and how did you get interested in real estate?
Yeah, so New Yorker, and I think if you don't know, you'll know pretty quickly when you hear me talk. I started my real estate career working with a billion-dollar developer in New York in ground-up construction, very much going to City Hall, arguing for permits, that NIMBY mindset, all of these things I would later apply to my career now. And then I moved back to Maryland. I was a Johns Hopkins alum, and I got my real estate license there, and I started in the phenomenal world of REO. I was an REO agent, the bank was my client, and I worked for a small 100% boutique brokerage, so I didn't really have a lot of training. And what I had was moxie and determination and confidence.
I think you need that in the real estate world.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And I became pretty successful in that world. And so right away I got, my sphere became flippers, investors, and little by little we started moving towards Section 8, multifamily.
This was in Maryland?
Yes.
Okay.
And fast forward, now being from New York, I'm sure like you grew up going down I-95 to Miami, Fort Lauderdale,
Of course.
Boca. So do you know what I didn't know?
But there was
St. Pete.
Tampa?
Yeah, I didn't understand the Gulf of Mexico.
There's a west side of Florida?
If it wasn't Miami, it wasn't real. Or
Sure.
Orlando, because you understood Disney.
Right.
And I met a friend in Baltimore, and he said, I'm from this place called Kakinaki. I said, where's that? St. Petersburg. Where's that? Outside of Tampa Bay. Still no. On the Gulf
Did you know
of
that
Mexico.
the Yankees, though, used to do their spring training in St. Petersburg? This was way back in the day.
I did not know that.
Yes,
I
way
did
back
not
in
know
the day.
that.
So all the old hardcore Yankees fans from way back in like literally the 20s and 30s, that's when they used to come here.
My mom would be thrilled. She is a hardcore Yankee fan. Because I went to school in Maryland, I went to more O's games than anything. But before you kind of look at me with a side glance, please note, we do share. I'm a diehard Jets fan, and also I'm a huge Tampa Bay Lightning. Like, I don't think you
Sure.
can move here
Yeah, you can't
and
be.
not just fall madly in love
Exactly.
with everything about Tampa Bay. So I did. I got on a plane in 2011, and I don't know that I was convinced, but I knew that the vibe of St. Pete was magical. And this began my love affair. I expanded my real estate license down here in 2014, not knowing what I would do with it.
Were you here full time
No.
in 2011? Okay.
No.
So you were just
And so
kind
I
of
just would come here every year.
get your feet wet.
Yep. And then in 2017, I said to myself, you know, what am I doing in Baltimore? You know this, a lot of people might not know this, I was diagnosed with cancer in my 20s, and I had this pretty big life of not dying and just making my way in the cancer world and being this big advocate. And I just said to myself, I didn't go through everything to be in Baltimore. Like, I need something more. And with 2 weeks notice, I packed up my stuff and my 7-year real estate career and just thought, I can make it here. And I came here, and you know, the first year was hard, but the rest is history. It's been 7 years, and I'm so equally as blessed today as I was 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, the sunsets don't get old. The manatees certainly don't get old. The vibe and the kindness of the people, and then the way that the real estate market, from the time that I arrived on the scene to now, has been such a wild ride.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So did anything change with when you came down to Tampa with your strategies on the real estate side right away, or was it pretty much the same concepts of working with the REO side? It was very different?
I thought, believe it or not, I was like, I'm gonna get into the luxury condo world, because I lived in a condo on Beach Drive in St. Pete, and I felt like those are my people. I know these people. I know what it takes. I know where you play tennis. I know who does your Botox. Like, I hang out with these people. I learned everything about every single building, and I would go up and down Beach Drive with what units were available in what building, handing out branded paperwork. Like, I was a hustler, just hitting the streets. And I realized that it wasn't really gelling. And I was like, okay, if I don't have the clients, I need to find the opportunity. And I took it back to grassroots. And I realized I've always represented investors. Let me see this market that I'm in. And I very quickly assimilated to STRs, the Airbnb world.
Yep.
And I realized that if I could find the deals.
This was before it probably became the big sexy
Yes,
thing it is now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And P.S. if you hear me now, Airbnb is Airbnb over. Like, we're done. We've moved on to
Oh,
co-living.
you've gotten that far.
Oh yeah, we're in pad split right now. We are in co-living. We've shifted. But back then in 2017, 2018, I had the opportunities, and I was able to analyze the deals, underwrite the deals. I knew how to create the team to take the client from purchase to profit. So I established that one-stop shop, and instead of looking for the clients here, I picked up the phone and called my clients from Baltimore and New York, and I said, you guys, I have an
You're missing out.
opportunity.
Gotta get down here.
And guess what? They never came down, they just said, here's the money, but
Sure.
do what you do. And we were very successful very quickly.
Very cool.
So then I knew the market was gonna start to pivot toward the end of 2021. And I've really taken this whole help people build wealth, help regular people generate passive income so that they feel a sense of financial certainty and safety as they age or throughout life's hardships. And I realized, Airbnb, what goes up must come down. I needed to find the next best thing, and that's when I started learning about co-living, and that's what I do
makes you
now.
think Airbnb is you're dead or on that way? A lot of people I know are, and I've studied a little bit of that space too, but a lot of people believe a lot of the regulation, the uncertainties behind the regulation creates a little bit of a cloud around the industry, because not really knowing what's going to happen, when's the next town going to say that you have to have 30-day minimum rentals and that kind of thing. And that's always been around, and I guess some people do things to spite what the regulations say, but I think that's a whole other story. But is it something bigger and beyond that you feel like is the biggest reason why?
Yeah, well, it's several factors. So the regulations are a huge part of it. Supply saturation. So back in the day, like Airbnb or STR, short-term rentals, have been around forever.
Sure.
In the Rockies, and we live in a beautiful vacation destination. So is Orlando. Like, there's always going to be places where Airbnb is successful.
Right. Wherever there's hotels, there's going to be a need for it, right?
Well, so I believe that thought is shifting. So as we marched toward COVID, people were getting aggravated with hotels. Really high fees, a lot of rules. You had no place to cook. Everything was so expensive, even if you needed a bottle of water. And so the rise of Airbnb began. COVID hit, the world shut down. 3 months later, the Wild Wild West of Florida reopened. And that's where our boom really took place.
Yeah.
Now, Airbnb aside, we all know our market went up 54% in the 2-year period. So then the acquisition costs became really large. So that's going to cut our margin of revenue. And then being an operator, I just think people don't understand that being an operator is a full-time job. And if you're not the operator, you must hire the operator.
No doubt.
And that costs money.
And you're talking about an operator to manage a portfolio of STRs.
Or even down to the most simplest terms of a property manager.
Right.
Because I love passivity in real estate investing. To be totally passive, you gotta put your money in a REIT or a syndicate.
Yeah.
Well, I need ownership.
Right.
I need to be able to call the shots. So if I want to be fully passive in Airbnb, I would teach my investors how to be self-managing, no matter if they were doctors, realtors, busy, tech guys in other states. And I would set them up with my crew, automations, but there would still be around 100 hours a year you had to work in your business, and you're dealing with upset guests, booking, marketing. And if you don't want to do that, you're paying a property management company 15 to 20% of the revenue. And
which is a little bit low, I think, from what I've seen in the STR space.
Yeah.
Some of these STRs are up over 20-25%. Now, it's different than a traditional long-term property management company. That's what I found.
And then after COVID, the rules of, cleaning, and then Airbnb's stance on always taking the guest's side has been really hard for some hosts to kind of swallow.
Yeah.
And so the yields were just becoming more compressed, and then the equity play. Like, let's talk about the most lucrative STRs have typically been in legal 1 to 7 zone beach condos. And why? Because the HOA would cover that flood insurance. Unfortunately, when Surfside collapsed, that's now changed the landscape of the Florida condo market. And if people don't understand this right now, as agents, we need to be on top of what is going to happen to the market in condominiums in Florida as our entire state, because I'm watching it every day, and I do believe it is going to collapse, and a lot of these hedge funds are going to come in and start buying up the buildings, mostly on the Broward side, not on our side. But what I found is I knew special assessments were coming because of the new milestone inspections post the Surfside collapse. I knew HOA fees were going to rise until we hit that bar of 100 million reserves in 2025. And once again, narrowing the revenue. So I would ask my clients, well, what's your goal? Is it cash flow? Is it the equity play that you can leverage? Or is it personal use as ROI? And if your answer is personal use as ROI, great, I'm gonna sell you an STR. But the answer that most people bring to me is, Beth, I need the tax deductions and I need cash flow. And that's when I realized, okay, I need to pivot my clients into the next biggest thing. And I took a step back. I looked at the market and economy, and I realized the next biggest thing was pad split and co-living.
That's awesome. So, it's exciting to hear you kind of dive into some of the mentality and just how you think about the whole process, because it really speaks, I think, to people out there who want to invest as an investor or just learn how investors think. because what you just talked about, I think gives a little bit of an inside look as to how you can partner with. Not every real estate agent is the same, right? There are many real estate agents who will say they can work with investors, but they don't have nearly the knowledge that Beth just spit in the last 60 seconds, about how she thinks about how to provide a certain level of service to an investor that a typical agent is not going to be able to provide, in many ways.
Not necessarily dumb it down, but I just want to frame something for everyone out there. Typically, realtors think of investors as guys who run you ragged, searching for deals and analyzing them until the cows come home. Mm-hmm. And when you finally find the deal that has the most insane returns that they've demanded, then they want you to write a lowball offer, and they have no exclusivity and no loyalty to you whatsoever. And that is why realtors shy away from this.
Yep.
On the other hand, investors think realtors don't know what they're doing, and if I buy retail, I'm not getting a deal. I want to frame this for every agent out there. A real estate investor is anyone who desires to use the housing market as the vehicle with which to generate passive income, build generational wealth, and reap bountiful tax benefits. And the key word in that sentence is anyone. My investors are not full-time investors. The majority of my clients, brace yourselves, are realtors and physicians. They have a lot of money, especially realtors coming off the ride we just came off of, that unicorn market. And they're like, what am I gonna do to retire? I need to start diversifying. And they'll call me up and I'll help them, and maybe you'll get bit by the bug and you'll start doing this for your clients.
Were you investing for yourself first before you kind of embraced it on the agent side, or has it all just been kind of like the journey at the same time?
I wasn't investing first because after surviving cancer, I had over $200,000 in medical debt in my 20s. And I was very angry, actually, because I just couldn't believe I had beat this disease, and they said I was gonna be dead by the time I was 30, and now here I am strapped with debt. And I dove into work because of the mentality, well, I'm in real estate, so with every deal I close, with every commission I earn, I'm gonna chip away at my own debt. And in the beginning, my investors would say, well, what's your portfolio look like?
Yeah.
And it would trigger me.
Right.
And I think maybe there was shame that I carried because I had so much debt, and yet here I was so skilled in my craft. But when I came to Florida, my success compounded so fast that the day that I made my second to last payment on that medical debt, I emailed my investors and I said, y'all have competition. Oh yeah, I said, you better
That's
look
awesome.
out. And the responses were, we're so happy for you. Like, you've made us so much money.
Yeah.
We can't wait to get in the game. Can we JV deals with you? And I was like, no, not yet. So very quickly, like, I amassed 6 doors. Everything has now grown so fast. And of course, I'm always looking at the deals, but I am not the agent who keeps the best stuff for myself. I actually want my investors to flourish and thrive.
Has your focus been always on the STR side, or do you also have long-term holds and long-term rentals?
Yeah, so
And
I
investors are doing
love residential. So let's be clear, multifamily 4 or less, right? Buy and holds, whether it's a single family home. I think buying and holding is how you build wealth. Short-term cash flow is going to be flipping. I have a great disdain for wholesalers. Sorry about it. But in flipping, you're going to make short-term cash, and that should only be to get you to the next project.
Sure.
I believe that to build long-term wealth, we need to build low and slow. We need to buy and hold, leverage the equity, use 1031s, use tax strategies, depreciation, cost segregation, and then just watch the real estate grow your life.
Is there so I know from what I've looked at, we've talked about this off camera, like 5 or more is considered commercial property, correct?
Mm-hmm.
In multifamily space. Do you also deal in that world too?
Yeah, so
one thing I think everyone needs to know is you have to stay in your lane. So when people say, oh, you're like residential, let's be clear. Only multifamily because it's my lane. So if there's a multifamily building, 10, 15, 20 units, that's my wheelhouse. But you're certainly not going to see me entering into a commercial space of retail, office, triple N leases. Like, that's not, I don't speak that language.
Yeah.
The language that I speak is analyzing deals for regular people to help them build wealth. So I think I like to keep it on the residential side for sure.
At what point, so again, from what I've looked at from this space, it seems like at some point when you're looking at these multifamily apartment buildings, you start to run into like the institutional investors, right? The REITs that come in. From my perspective, it seems like that's somewhere around 50 units or larger, where you start to see that. It's a different ball game, right? At that point, rather than maybe say that 5 to 50 unit space. Would you say that's fairly accurate?
Yeah, I love when the big boys stay in the big commercial space. But I think what people don't know is you see people say, oh, the hedge funds, they own so much market share of single family rentals. And that's absolutely incorrect. They own less than 4%. And it is the mom and pop investors, my clients, who have the lion's share at 86% of the single family dwellings used for rentals that they're holding.
That's nationally, you're saying, right?
Yeah. And so this is what I want people to understand. If you're a realtor and you help somebody buy a house, let's just say from 2015 to 2021, what do we know that they have? Equity, about $199,000 to be exact. So if you could call your past clients that I bet you're not following up with, and you drop them a little text, I call it an equity text, and you say, hey, Suze, I just showed my buyers 123 Main Street, which happens to be around the corner from the house you sold her. Oh my God, we're putting in an offer at $650,000. You're sitting on $200,000. Next text. If I can show you how to take that money and do a HELOC and purchase an investment property that you don't need to qualify with your income, that's going to pay for itself and pay you a salary, how would that change your life?
Yeah.
Those are the two texts. You drop them, and your clients...
It's a pretty nice text to get from your agent, I think.
That you're, so sometimes I'll do like, you're sitting on $200,000 in equity. I'm like, you must have had a really good realtor. Yeah. So I want regular agents to know, if they're like, well, how do I start, Beth? Like, I don't have clients. Yes, you do. You just need the opportunity, and then look inward, and you have clients that you can introduce into these opportunities. I think that to be able to buy a single family home, and again, the numbers have to be right. This is why I've entered into pad split and co-living, because we're making multifamily returns on single family houses, and we're solving the affordable workforce housing crisis for the working community in rentals. It's like a win-win-win for everyone. And the houses are really easy to acquire, really easy to run and operate. The cash flow is tremendous. And this makes it easy for the regular mom and pop to grow and scale. Maybe it's one home a year. Maybe it's one home every 5 years. But when I think about my life, if I had had passive income, if I had had a rental property when I got cancer, what would that have done for me?
You wouldn't have had to accumulate all that debt, right?
Right. Yeah. And so when we think about putting kids through college, when we think about retiring, when we think about the loss of a job or a disease or a divorce or, the loss of a loved one, I think about, like, this is why I'm so passionate about this, because life is really scary and hard, but your financial future doesn't have to be.
Yep.
And we can do it quite easily through rental properties.
Yep.
Like, when's the last time the bank ever lent you money to buy a stock or crypto?
No, it doesn't happen.
Right.
Right. No doubt. And if they do, they're going to want to have a lot of different collateral backing everything up. So it's a totally different ballgame. The leverage with real estate it doesn't compare with anything else. That's why I like investing in real estate as well. And I've always liked this part of the conversation. So it's a joy to have you, because I think we can talk about this probably for hours. But I want to clarify. You mentioned pad split a couple different times, and that might be a term that people might not be familiar with. I think most people now know Airbnb. They understand what that looks like and so forth. But can you explain, like, pad split? What was the other term you used?
Co-living.
Co-living. So why that's something that you're excited about, what that actually is, what it looks like, and help understand that.
So just like STR, short-term rental, that's what it is. And then Airbnb is the platform. So co-living is what it is. Pad split is a platform, right? And so co-living is shared housing, quite simply. And you think back to, like, my college days. Okay, I had like 4 people. Everyone had their own bedroom, but we were on one lease. So with co-living and shared housing, each room is on its own lease, usually. And so the issue with this for landlords,
longer term leases,
they can be, so this is not short term, but they can be medium term. You're going to hear MTR, midterm rentals, medium term rentals. These are all the rage right now. We started to hear this with nurses and Furnished Finder. But with long-term tenants, what do we know the risks are? Well, eviction. is, no matter where you are, it's a scary one, even though Florida is a landlord state. When a long-term tenant has failure to pay, we're usually 3 months behind before we can kind of even start making a move. And short-term, we're paying a very high tax, the hotel tax, and then it's so much turnover. And with short-term, the legality and the zoning is really hard. So we know that most of Tampa Bay is a 30-day plus.
Yeah.
Right. So that's perfect for midterm rentals. Doesn't have to be a year, and it can be a shorter lease. So with co-living,
Do a month to month, right?
absolutely. The pain of a co-living landlord is when you have, let's say you have a 5-bedroom house and you have 5 tenants, that's a lot of it's like running a multifamily, right? And so you don't want that. With pad split, it is very specific. The member, that's their tenant, that they're targeting is the lowest income earners within our communities. So these are the guys who work at the Amazon plants. They're janitors for our hotels, hospitals, casinos. And so these guys are, and hospitality, they're making $20 an hour, $40,000 a year. Let's do some quick math. What do you need to get into a rental? First, last, security, FICO, great references. And so for these lower income earners, they're struggling to find rent. Well, if they can't rent near where they work, what are we doing? We're going to fall apart. And so pad split solves for 2 problems. They solve for the working force and they solve for the investors because they took away the pain point. Like pad split does it all. They do the move-ins, the background checks, the collections, the payouts. And it's a win-win-win. It's a platform that you can really feel good about. They started 5 years ago in Atlanta. That's why a lot of people don't know about them yet. When I got on board,
It's just padsplit.com.
yes. Yep. When I got on board, they had like 4,000 units. They were in like 3 cities. And just to kind of, and I've been involved with them for just around 3 years. And now we're at about 11,000 units and our 24th city just launched. And it just feels so good. The cash flow for the investors is
When you
unbelievable.
say you're involved with them, do you have part of the company?
I am invested in the prop tech. However, I'm an owner. Like I own Pad Splits. I'm a host. And then I built my own host community because I pivoted so many of my investors. So in the last 2 years, we've put over 200 units on the platform. So we make up about my investors, about a quarter of Tampa Bay's total.
Wow.
Yeah.
And is it all over the country now? Padsplit?
Yeah, so 26 cities, but they're launching their anywhere markets soon. You know, they started launching just core markets. So you'd have all the boots on the ground support from an account exec, your general contractor, your property manager, and people caught on quickly. So this concept is going to sweep. And I want people to think, imagine if you found out about Airbnb in 2016 and you became an expert at it. How big would your business have been when I was, blowing up in Airbnb? And that's kind of how PadSplit has been for me. So I made a course for realtors, not for investors. For realtors, 1, I'm committed to uplifting this industry. 2,
We're aligned there.
yeah. 2, in a big way, I believe that investors just can't do what realtors do. We have the ability to look at the totality of a deal, from the house to the community. Like I think of this as a great responsibility to how do we grow this without upsetting the natural balance of the community, the supply? How do we do this without upsetting the natural flow of single family inventory available to our buyers as interest rates come back down toward the end of the year and they're going to re-enter? How do we do this? I'm always forward thinking of what it looks like and how it benefits the community. So I made a course for realtors because what took me 6 to 8 months to figure out, I condensed down into...
The course is focused on pad splits?
Yeah, it's pad split mastery for realtors.
Love it.
Yeah.
I have so many other questions that I feel like we could talk about that alone for
We're
another
going to
hour.
do a pop series, though. We are going to do a
Yes.
pop series on investing. And it's because I am the girl that wants realtors to understand you don't need experience to become great at this. You don't need to have a strong suit in math to become great at this. I can show you how with simple tools like the Google mortgage calculator. There's very simple tools to analyze deals. And if you weren't going after these big bad wolves, these REITs, these hedge funds, the big boys, and you were just looking at your friend Susie that you sold a house to a few years ago, and you know that Susie's mom is getting older and she's one of your good friends, and she says to you, like, I'm really worried, like, how am I going to pay for my mom's care? And if you could go to your client and say, I can show you how to do a HELOC on your house, and you bring your mortgage partner in to do that HELOC, and I'm going to line up an opportunity that you can say yes to, that we're going to use a DSCR loan, so you don't need to qualify with your income, and this property is going to pay for itself, but more than that, we're not just going to net, it's going to cash flow, and it's going to give you a very small salary, and over the years, you know what happens, regular real estate.
No doubt.
So
It's a game changer.
I love, this is my obsession,
I
as
can
you've
tell
now
you're passionate
learned.
about
Yeah.
it. I want to. That is a good bridge, actually, to the whole Build Wealth with Beth brand. And I know that is this a book that you wrote?
So the book, that's the brand. The book is actually Six Figure Agent, which is geared to early career agents and agents that are struggling, how to make consistent six figures in your business. And my friends were like, why didn't you call it Seven Figure Agent? Because the average realtor actually makes like $60,000 a year.
Yeah. So if you can get them to average six figures, that's a game changer.
And six figures goes up to 999,000, y'all. Like, let's be clear.
Yeah, I mean, if you can double what the average agent earns, that's a game changer right there. Talking about making a real difference in the community, you know?
So the book, by the way, if anyone out there wants the book, you don't need to buy it. You just come to me and I will send you a free e-copy. Like, the book hit the bestseller list. I'm so past that. Build Wealth really is my mission to help regular people build wealth in a very tough society. Yeah. I'm worried that my generation, like Gen X, people, our friends who have like a W-2 job, which is so weird to me, but like my friends are like, oh, I'm married to my pension. What is that even going to look like when we get older?
Right. That's scary.
Yeah.
That's the real scary stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You remind me in some ways of, we had Angela Duncan on this show. Do you know who that is? A couple of months ago. And she has a book too called Empower Her Money. And she's very passionate about very similar concepts and principles that you've been preaching here. And she also invests a lot with like Grant Cardone's real estate programs and a lot of the stuff that she does. So you two should connect on like a podcast together, because she has her podcast as well. I'll have to make an introduction there if you don't know her. Yeah, I'll make sure you guys get hooked up, because I think that's a dynamic duo that can make move some needles here in the empowering wealth space.
I think
so
for
do you,
agents
do you go ahead.
Well, so for agents who have teams and who have like large teams, and I know that's a lot of the audience, when they have newer agents who might only be focused on like that smaller population of their peers who might be renting, and I wish we could normalize house hacking for first-time buyers who it's appropriate for. House hacking is being able to sacrifice and monetize on your house. Like Fannie Mae has a new product where you can buy a house with 5% down if it's a multifamily. So imagine you have a first-time buyer and they can't afford the barrier to entry in a traditional home with rates right now, and you then found them a duplex. And you're like, you know what? This is perfect for you. You can get into this with 5% down, and we can use the rent money from the other side to offset your DTI. Like, let's just normalize more of this to help people get into homes and live the American dream.
I love it. It's awesome. Do you invest outside of real estate? Is that part of your building wealth strategies? Yeah.
So in technology, in stock, in crypto, I think you have to have a balanced portfolio. I also lost, a lot of money in the stock market when I was young.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand real estate investing back then because I was from New York. So that was an unattainable thing.
Right.
Because of the price.
Different ball game up there.
Yeah.
I knew that from Connecticut as well. So with your Building Wealth brand now, is that, do you have a coaching program, right? Do you work with agents mostly on that side? Is it more investors, both?
Yeah. So investors, they can do single session coaching with me, because here's the deal. I don't want to coach an investor that I'm not working with, because if I coach you and then you go to another agent, let's say it's a different city, state, whatever, I don't know that they're going to guide you the way that I will. Like, I'm very sure and certain, because of my past results, in every yield that you're going to get, which gives me a lot of confidence in what I do. But I prefer to coach realtors and really not the newbies, to put it out there. I want, unless you have a full passion for investing, I want people who have been in the game, who understand the nuance of at least contracts. They're not afraid to have conversations. They're not afraid to pick up the phone. I don't cold call. I don't buy leads, but I'm having conversations, especially on social media, about what I'm trying to do and the opportunities that I'm trying to bring to people. So if you're a realtor who has you're an excitable person, call me.
Let's connect, right?
Yeah.
No doubt. And it's very aligned, again, as I said, with we're launching, in fact, this podcast right now is being streamed on one of our new platforms called Top Producers Nation. And the idea behind that platform is to provide more of a national reach to any agent who wants to be a real producer in their market. And so we want to take this type of content from our podcast. We have a course as well that we're launching to add into that. And so you, my friend, are probably hopefully going to be one of the coaches that I would talk to be able to add some value even to that, to see if we can do what we can to make a difference in the real estate community.
I would love to. You're so cool. I adore you so much. And I love that your commitment is to value, right? And I think, listen, this is a tough gig to have. I don't know why people get into this career, right? I mean, just when you think you're
you gotta
good,
have a little bit of a screw loose.
Yeah,
but it's fun at the same time.
I just when you think I don't really have to work weekends and I don't really work after 7:30 p.m. ever. Okay, that's great. That took a lot of years to get to. But just when you think you're going to coast and be comfortable, oh, heck no.
Right.
And this condo market might collapse. Interest rates are flying.
Yeah.
So you always have to be agile.
Have to be ready to pivot, right?
Yeah. So thank you for the value. And I'm happy to do whatever I can to lend a voice to that.
I'll be picking your brain. Don't worry. No doubt. There's a lot of great stuff we've already touched on here that I hope are getting people's appetites going, and realizing that if you don't follow Beth already, we'll have her share all that in a few minutes. But she's a great follow on social media. You can learn a lot from just watching what she does, on a regular basis. I wanted to ask you too, your investors that you work with, are you basically just focused in on this market with property and opportunity for them, or do you also work with them in other markets and outside other states as well?
Yeah. So the beauty of, the brokerage that I happen to be at, which is borderless. And again, I'm super broker agnostic. Very important, because again, my commitment is to uplifting our industry that's broker agnostic. Sure. I don't want someone from a different brokerage to be like, I can't talk to her because she's at this company. It's not how I feel. But because my company is borderless, I do have 44 agents that are in my tribe, my revenue share group. So they're all over. And then I have agents who coach in my pad split course. And so it's beautiful when somebody comes to me and they can't afford the barrier to entry for a pad split in Tampa Bay, I'm going to send them to Baltimore or send them to one of my agents in Texas. So yeah, I'm all about the referral business because that's huge in our industry. And I'm always about why I'm into specific markets. I can back up everything that I believe. So, everyone's like, oh, we're into Ohio. I'm not, because look what's on the ballot. I'm psyched for Ohio. Is it Ohioans? I'm psyched for them. What's on the ballot is for them to get rid of state income tax. Yes. Yeah. Who is that bad for? Real estate investors. Why? Because your property tax is then going to double, which, listen, it's got to come from somewhere, y'all. Right. You got to pay to play.
Right.
But I'm really keen on Vegas because all of Hollywood is mass exodusing into Vegas. And what happens when rich people live somewhere? The people who work for them need to live somewhere. I'm really big on very specific markets. I love Dallas, North Dallas, Frisco. There's some markets I have my eye on for sure.
Cool. So you do have investors that you'll even point to that would invest remotely. I'm assuming most of your investors are remote investors. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. 95% are out of state. Some are out of country, and over 50% of my investors have never seen their investment.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so part of that, in order for that to be true, then there obviously has to be this mechanism that you, I guess, are the one bringing to the table that allows things to run automated, right? Whether that's the client concierge side of things, if it's Airbnb or short term or something to that effect. So that's through your network and your contacts that you're bringing that value to the investors as well. It's
yes.
part of the offering, right?
I built a one-shop stop of my very exclusive vendor tribe. And you do not, how most realtors are like, oh, put your vendor list out there. Okay, you don't get access to mine until you're in an exclusive agreement with me. I have a retainer fee, and then you get access to my tribe as you need them, because these are people that I've done business with for years and years, and they are as committed. So we don't have any partnerships. We don't take money from each other. We're really uplifting each other's businesses. So we keep it nice and transparent. But yeah, so my investors don't have to think. They just have to know, like, and trust me and understand that I know exactly what I'm doing. I have a proven track record for success. And if you feel the passion, you sign on, and before you know it, you're just collecting your checks.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's what most investors want anyway, right? Just mailbox money. That's the definition. For people who might not know you that well personally, let's transition to some things just to get to people to know who Beth is more. So are you family, married, kids? What do you love to do for fun?
Cigars, fast cars, and talking about
If you watch
real
the
estate.
magazine, there's a great picture with Beth holding her cigar. Well, I think her stack of books is up on the table as well. But a big cigar aficionado, huh?
Yeah, so if you're looking for me, if you're trying to find me, and please, for the love of God, if you're a lender, just don't. But if you're a realtor and you're trying to find me, it's not going to be coffee
Hey,
or
we
lunch.
love our lenders too. Don't worry about it.
I do too. I'm giving them the
I'm sure
sauce.
you get bombarded,
now they're
though.
like, now they're
Yes.
going to be like, I have a great cigar. And here's the thing, I will rarely turn that down. And so I think if you do research on people, and if you knew that I'm a huge cigar lover, it's the person who calls me and says, hey, I would love to buy you a cigar and have a smoke. The person I'm really into is a person who doesn't smoke and who sits through a cigar lounge just to take that meeting. Like, I see you and I respect that.
Have you been to the one up on 54 yet? Right by the big Game Time.
No.
Right by the Wiregrass Mall area up there. It's like a newer cigar lounge that they have up there.
Yeah,
big outside lounge with fire pits
I
and
love
everything.
that.
It's a cool spot.
And so I also believe that you can find a million clients in cigar lounges. So you'll find me in cigar lounges all over the country. Like, no matter where I am, I know people in every cigar lounge. So
Gotcha.
it's a great community. Yeah, but beyond that, not married, no kids.
Never were, right?
Never. I was a runaway bride, but
Nice. That's a whole other podcast that we could have too.
But I'm so, listen, at the end of the day, I was always an overachiever. Getting cancer at 26, I was trying not to die for pivotal years when people are meeting their significant other.
Yeah.
And then I was learning how to relive my life after burying many, many friends to the disease. So I took off on great adventures. I summited.
How did you have?
I had breast cancer at 26. It was very rare and very aggressive. And I was not supposed to beat it. And I lived a beautiful life.
God kept you here
because
for
of
a
it.
reason.
Oh, 100%. Shout out. Absolutely. And I did a lot of adventures. I summited Mount Hood. I went climbing in Moab. I rappelled off skyscrapers. Like, I did all the things you think you should do after surviving. And then I realized I was really mad about the debt thing. And that's when I was like, you know what? I need to get back to work. And real estate, I'm so lucky I didn't quit, right? Because it gets so hard those first few years, and then the market shifts and you get worried and you're on that deal roller coaster. And even the most successful realtors, team leads, broker owners, you don't forget what that feeling was
Right.
like when
It's a
you were
roller
just
coaster
so
for sure.
broke and so scared and desperate. And I remember the day that I just made a decision that was never going to be my life again. And from that moment, it's just been such a compounding, explosive growth that this excites me every single day.
And it speaks to the importance of having something like an investment, even if it's a side gig, at first, just to try to have that stability, because that's the one thing that passive income can bring you is some consistency, right, in the revenue side.
Yeah.
And we all know that the markets are always going to ebb and flow from a traditional real estate buying and selling philosophy. So if that's where all of your income is and that's the only income you have, you're naturally setting yourself up for a little bit of that roller coaster mindset.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. My average client transacts 3 times per calendar year, where a regular client transacts once every 7 to 9 years. And maybe you'll pull one referral out of that, and then you'll sell, then buy. But the lifetime value of a traditional client versus the immediate value of a client who's buying income property it's just hand over foot. So it just, again, like when you're thinking in terms of the market shifted, I've been a little nervous for the last year and a half. Everything feels uneasy. Just think bigger.
No doubt.
Think who can I call and what opportunity is there that they can say yes to?
Are you still involved at all in helping or talking or speaking to people who are battling cancer?
I try to limit that, and I'll tell you why. What I have found is when you're newly diagnosed, you want, like when I was 26, I didn't want to talk to somebody who was 10 years past it, who had hair back. Like I was about to lose my hair and I was about to lose my breasts. I wanted to talk to people who were going through chemo at the same time experiencing that. Also, it's been 19 years. And even though I pioneered, my longest surgery was 17 hours. And I saw my surgeon in New York last week and he was like, Beth, we do it in 7 hours now. Like, wow. Yeah, they were practicing on me pretty much.
Yeah.
And so medicine has changed. So is it, again, it's something that I just know that when you're going through it, but can I give all the resources? Sure. Do I understand it? Absolutely. Especially if you're a young adult.
Your mindset has got to be such an important part of it, right? Like the thinking that everybody, the first thing you would think of is, am I going to die? Right. And how do you get over that? That's the mentality part of it that I think is really hard for people to deal with.
You get over it because you're in it.
Right.
So listen, you don't need strength. You don't need courage, to be honest. You can either bury your head in the sand and do nothing and die, or you can choose to fight like hell. And it is still a crapshoot. Yeah. Right. But I'm going to make the decision that I have a lot left to do.
Right.
And, and listen, people are like, it's
typical treatment like chemo and radiation.
Oh, so yeah. I mean, I then had to fight the FDA to get a monoclonal antibody that back then I couldn't get into the clinical trial because I was not yet stage 4. So I was going to die without it, but I couldn't get it. And so I'm fighting the FDA. There's no social media. Like there's no Google. Like there was AIM, instant messenger. So I would find these women in Europe and they were in these trials. Yeah, my life. Those women saved my life and that sound. And I would print out pages and bring it to my oncologist. And I would say, listen, this is what's going on. And she's like, I can get you this drug, Herceptin, off label. Mind you, this has now become one of the biggest and best drugs. If you got diagnosed with the kind of cancer I have now, you'd have a great percentage of it being treatable and being, we're not going to say curable, but you going back to a relatively normal life.
A lot of people who aren't in that world probably don't recognize how much it has changed, over the last decade plus. Have you read Tony Robbins' book, Life Force?
No, but I love Tony.
He's got an amazing book. It's like a 600-page book. It's a beast. But in that, it's all about health. And, he's really been passionate about that space over the last few years. And a lot of the book is about modern day cutting edge treatments for cancer and other things. But it's all like the common cardiovascular disease, cancer, the big killers. It's an amazing book to read.
I'm fascinated by all that. I can go down so many rabbit holes with environmental, the food we put in our body. So I think about all of that. And also when I think about you with your soccer team of children, that's the thing. I sometimes wonder, what does that pressure feel like for you as a dad? Yeah. And that we do have a bigger responsibility to leave this world a better place. And it's very scary with technology and what we're consuming in both tech and food and everything else. I feel very lucky to be Gen X.
These things right here, you never know what they're really doing to you, do you?
Oh, I already beat cancer like that. We're all going to die of something. But for me, I'm here for the moment, and every day that I wake up, every day that I breathe is a day that I hope. Amen. And I just, some days I succeed, some days I try.
Right. That's all we can do sometimes, right? I got a couple rapid fire questions for you, for people to get to know you a little bit more, and then we're going to pivot to put a ribbon on the episode. We're definitely going to have Beth back because there's a lot more that we could have talked about for sure with our time. But Beth has a business to go run today, so we're gonna let her out of here soon. But do you have a favorite book or movie? I'm sorry, not movie, book or author, or even a seminar that you feel like has made a huge impact on you?
So right now, I think it goes through phases, right? So right now I'm really in this Hormozy phase, right? Like Alex and Layla.
He's got some great content.
I just love them both so much. I'm such a fangirl. So I start every single day listening to his podcast every day. He's brilliant.
Yeah.
So I'm
great marketer.
Yeah. You got to consume who you need in the moment. One of my coaches, Coach Michael Burt, he changed my life with his whole Pray Drive, and the year that I coached with him, I doubled my volume. And so he really influenced me. Really, it's interesting because I'm not like I love reading books. Like I love The Gap and the Gain. I love Dan Sullivan. Like I love business books, Darren Hardy. I have stacks of these things and I read them. But what I find is if you don't stop and apply it, then you kind of forget. I love Exactly What to Say. There is a version for realtors. It's in black. I believe every realtor should gift themselves the book Exactly What to Say, Phil M. Jones. I think that's about it on the book thing.
Yeah. One little tip to that, and I felt the exact same way. For a couple of years in a row, I was reading 100 books a year. It was like a goal that I had, and I felt like at some point I was just reading books to read books, and I wasn't executing pretty much anything, right? And then I now read 24 books a year. I read 2 per month. It's been a consistent thing, and it's been much easier for me to implement stuff. But what I do is every time I read a book, I open it up while I'm reading it, and I use the inside sleeve of every book to be my action steps from that book. And so now when I take a book, all I have to do is open up the inside cover, and I know exactly whether I did those things or whether I didn't and when I'm going to do them. And it's much easier for me than even, I used to highlight books and then I would be looking through highlights, be like, this isn't working for me, right? So that was a little tip that really changed my ability to take ideas from a great book and actually do something with them. It's been helpful.
Yeah, it's the same at conferences. Like I feel like you get so overwhelmed when you're in 800 workshops, all these breakouts, and you're so exhausted. And then you go home from the conference and you don't put anything to action.
Totally.
So I just feel like with anything in life, pick 1 or 2 things and immediately implement.
Makes sense. Do you have a favorite movie or TV show?
You'll know that I'm not a big sitter downer. Like I just don't really allow myself that kind of space to watch television and movies. So if I do, it's mindless. It's I love American Greed. I do love American Greed.
That's a great show.
I love
like
Shark Tank.
There you go. I could see that.
But
You just can't get away from the negotiation, can you?
No. and I do, a little known fact, I love American Idol and The Voice. I was a musician and I am constantly yelling as passionately as I do when I watch the Jets at The Voice and American Idol. Like
Nice.
if someone's
cheering them on or yelling?
no,
like,
if you're
why
off
you're screwing
pitch, your
things up?
breath, I'm like, why'd you pick that song? And usually what I say, it's what the judges are going to say thereafter.
You're a singer?
I played the saxophone.
Oh, nice. We'll have to have you play it at an event sometime.
Definitely not.
I'm going to write that down. That's a note. That's a note right there. All right. So one of my favorite questions, and you mentioned it a little bit earlier, is the idea of, realizing at some point when you're sitting on that rocking chair, there's going to be a legacy that we all leave, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. And what do you think, Beth, would be most important to you that you would want to be most remembered by in terms of your legacy?
I think we're all going to be forgotten, right? Unless you have your name on a building, which would be amazing. Or you have a trust that will live on, or an animal sanctuary.
I can just see buildings with Beth on it.
the bee, right?
Got it on your neck. I may as well throw that logo on a building. It works.
Yeah, got a big ego. But I think so. I think much shorter. Like I believe that every day, if I'm like thinking too much about what I'm leaving behind, I'm wasting time while I'm here. So I think people who know me, look, even the article in Real Producers, it says the B is for bulldog. I'm not necessarily the nicest person. I'm really tough, but the people who know me know that on the inside, I'm a softie, and I cry at like a Kleenex commercial. Like I really feel very deeply, and I have a lot of compassion and empathy for people. But if you know me, you know I'm quite the hype woman. Like I am excited for life, and I want everyone to feel this way. And I believe it's as simple as I see someone I don't know on the street and I like what they're wearing and I say something. And I engage in conversation with people, because people should not be looking at their phone. They should be living and engaging and communicating and feeling connected. So I think the legacy is I just want to do it right now while I'm here. When I'm dead, don't care. Bye. Like, I don't have kids, so I don't have to care. I get to take all my money and spend it.
That'll be a fun couple of years, huh? Hopefully longer than that. Decades for all the money you're building.
From your mouth to God's
We're going to put well, let me just ask this for people who might want to pick your brain, because there was a lot that we threw out here today. And like I said earlier, you're a great follow on social media. So what's the best way for someone to connect with you, Beth, if they want to be able to reach out, or even just pick your brain a little bit?
Yeah, IG. Certainly Instagram, which is Build Wealth with Beth. No underscores, no spaces, just Build Wealth with Beth, or you can go to buildwealthwithbeth.com. On LinkedIn, I'm under my regular name, Beth Silverman. Facebook as well is my regular name. And my profiles are all public. It's just me authentically. So if you don't like me, I'm so sorry for your life. Like, I am as authentic as they come. And I just, I hope I can bring value to anybody who needs a hand.
Well, I think you brought a lot of value just today. So it's great to have you here on the show. Like I said, we're going to have you back. And we will have Beth on one of our panels. Those of you who follow us at our third Thursday of every month at Whiskey Cake, Beth will be there for our Building Wealth in Real Estate panel later this year. You can see all that, by the way, on our website, which is TampaBayRealProducers.com. But we're going to end the way we always end, which is with a challenge to the audience. So if you were watching today live streaming through Facebook or through our YouTube channel or through Instagram, or you're watching this through any of your favorite podcast platforms, what is one action step that you can take from this conversation with Beth that's going to help propel you forward? Like Beth said, if you read a great book or you listen to a great podcast, but you don't take action on anything, you're probably going to forget pretty much everything that all the value that brought. And Beth spilled a lot of value today. Maybe you have to check out the padsplit.com platform and educate yourself a little bit more. Maybe you need to just reach out to Beth, possibly even get coached by Beth if that's something that interests you. Or maybe you need to talk to her about building that next conversation with the investor or that past client that you can look back through your old database and realize how much equity they now have. And those are potential investors that you can now help change people's lives if you know how to have those conversations. So there was a lot of different things that we flushed out today, possibly one of the book recommendations that we threw out, but do something. Take one action step that's going to propel you forward personally or professionally. And if you do that, then the time that you invested in watching this and listening to this will be worth it. Again, this podcast is brought to you by Tampa Bay Real Producers, and it is also powered by Top Producers Nation all throughout the U.S. If you don't already subscribe, click the button so that you get notified every time that we drop a new episode. We'll see you on the next one. Stay classy. Later.
Hi everyone, my name is Janina Wozniak. I'm a realtor with Future Home Realty. I have been licensed since 2014. I work the greater Tampa Bay area. I am grateful to be a member of the Tampa Bay Real Producers. It is a fantastic opportunity, not only for myself, but it offers so many additional great things for my clients in terms of the people that we're affiliated with and the top businesses, from photography to title companies to mortgage people. It really is a whole community of top agents throughout the Tampa Bay area.